Some of you are working jobs that you despise. Some of you are students. Maybe you are going to school because you feel like you should be doing what your parents told you to do, or you should be doing what culture is telling you to do. I've done that. I've been there. In fact, I started making games when I was a teenager. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. And then I kind of went into a bit of a regression in terms of passion and dreams when I went to college and when I got a desk job. I was still making games and I was working hard at it, but I don't know if I ever truly believed that I would quit my job and start my own company. It was always this huge fear of never being able to achieve what I always had wanted to achieve ever since I was a kid. There was always this fear in the back of my mind and a voice in the back of my mind that told me that I wouldn't get there, that it was impossible. I would hear stories of people, they'd get a publisher, they'd make a lot of money, they'd have their own studio, they'd be able to work in their pajamas. They would release games and get a 9 out of 10 score on Steam or a 10 out of 10 score on Steam. All these wonderful stories. I remember I would listen to podcasts with interviews with developers. Kind of a situation like right now. And you're thinking, wow, I'll never be able to do what Thomas does. And don't get me wrong, I'm not thinking that I'm special or that I'm super popular or anything. I just know that I'm in a position where I make games for a living. And that can feel so far away. Well, I want to tell you guys the story of how I quit my job to become a video game developer. Before I tell you my wonderful, beautiful quitting story, I want to talk to you about something that would have helped me quit a lot faster. Quit my job, that is, not my career, my job. And that is Skillshare. Skillshare is an incredible sponsor. I love Skillshare. I love what they do. And so I'm happy to shout them out and just tell you that there are a ton of courses available on Skillshare.com, whether it's 2D animation or audio or game development or 2D design or code. Whatever you need to be able to start your indie game career and quit your job, it's on Skillshare. So please, guys, click the link below if you want to get 2 free months of Skillshare. Thank you so much, Skillshare, for supporting me and my channel. So it all started, hold on one sec. It all started with a melody. It started with a melody. I can't play it. There it is. That's the melody. That's how my game started. It was really just a song that I wrote when I was 18 years old. And I wrote it in my bedroom. I was in a band, but I didn't have a ton of friends. And I remember I would just go upstairs in my bedroom when I was in high school and I would write music. And that song really made me feel something, and I wanted to add it to my games. So I decided I was going to make a game called Coma, released it on newgrounds.com, got 8 million views. I loved it. It was the best feeling in the world. But what was weird is, even though I had a lot of validation about my game and about myself and about my art form, I kind of still felt insecure. A lot of you feel insecure and you say, I just need a little bit of validation. I just need someone to tell me that I can do this, and then I'll be brave. Even if you get 8 million plays on your game, if you're like me, you can still feel insecure about who you are. So I went from 18 to about 23 years old, going through college, getting a desk job, doing the normal American thing, because I honestly was afraid I wouldn't be able to pay the bills. So I got married, started working a desk job, and basically was in a cubicle. It was conveniently shaped more like a trapezoid or something so that it didn't feel like a cubicle, but it kind of was. And I was a graphic designer, and I gotta give my boss credit. He tried so hard to make sure that I was happy, and he would pitch creative projects to clients as creative as we could make them. But the problem was our clients were B2B clients, business to business marketing, which is, you're working for tire companies and construction companies and things that, aren't very exciting. You're not making ads for like Nike or something or Adidas, or I don't know why I keep thinking of shoe brands. I know just shoe brands have cool ads. We weren't really doing that. We were making ads that were kind of boring. And I remember one day, this might sound a little over dramatic, but I remember one day it was pouring rain outside. It was really gloomy. And I was in my little trapezoid, and I was staring at a wall. I was looking at my wall to my left. I had gotten my work done. Well, maybe I wasn't. There's no need to lie here. Maybe I was just sitting there, not working. I was looking at a wall, and I thought to myself, I'm never going to get out of here. And it was like this rush of like heat coming up from my chest and into my cheeks of like, I'm stuck. And a lot of you feel that hell right now. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't work desk jobs. If you love your job, go for it. And honestly, I'm at a desk right now, so I'm not really using the right word, am I? But if you feel that hell, keep listening to the story and hopefully you'll be encouraged. So during that moment and those feelings of feeling stuck and imprisoned, that was the moment where I realized that I was going to push as hard as I could, the hardest I ever could, to make games for a living, to start my own company. See, a lot of us need that rush of heat from the chest to the face. I don't know if you guys get it, but it's like this heat of fear, of feeling trapped, almost like a claustrophobic feeling. A lot of us need that feeling to be able to give us the drive and the energy to actually work, to make things different, to change things. And so that's what I did. I told myself I was going to wake up early in the morning, every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, before going to the morning commute to go to work. I was going to make games at that time. I was going to work through lunch. I was going to cram a sandwich down my throat while I made games at my desk at my job. And then when I got home, my wife and I agreed that I was just going to eat dinner and then go work for an hour or two making games. So I was working about 2 to 3 hours a day on games outside of my desk job. And I won't beat a dead horse. I've talked about this 1,000 times. It was obviously very challenging. I was obsessed with getting out of that job. Now, the cool thing about getting married, and I encourage all of you to honestly get married and start a family. One of the main reasons why I'm so passionate about marriage is that it forces you to be responsible and it forces you to push hard, especially when you feel trapped. A lot of people feel trapped when they get married. They feel trapped at a desk job. And so what they'll do is they'll blame marriage or they'll blame their family. That's not what you should do. It's a good thing to feel trapped because what it does is it pushes you to be stronger and work harder towards your dreams. So I'm glad I was married because I don't know if I would have pushed as hard as I did to experience this sense of freedom to be able to start my own career. If you're in your 20s right now, some of you feel like you can just sort of take your time and relax and maybe watch Netflix or play video games and drink beer and hang out with your friends through your 20s because you're supposed to have fun in your 20s. But if you get married in your 20s, like I did, suddenly all of those desires go away and you realize that you want to work towards independence, financial independence, so that you can do your own thing. And so that's why I'm really glad that I got married because it pushed me to want to work hard so that I could support my family while also doing what I love and experiencing that sense of freedom the day that I quit. So I worked on my game and it was called Pinstripe. And I can't tell you how insecure I was about this game. Every day I would avoid reading articles about new indie games online. I would avoid them like the plague because I would get so jealous. I would get so jealous of reading about these great indie games that people like Edmund McMillan were making and Jonathan Blow. I would avoid reading the articles and playing the games because I was jealous. I was so passionate about doing what they were doing, and it felt so far away. Even the slightest encouragement, whether it was maybe getting into some booth at IGF or whether it was getting a good review from somebody who played the game or someone in the press, and I hadn't released the game yet, but I would still send it to people in the press just to see what they thought about it. To get small little reviews would send my ego soaring, and then the next day I would feel down again. I would wake up feeling like I was wasting my time. When you don't have the validation of releasing your first game, when you don't have the validation of actually making something and seeing it be successful, I totally get that feeling of like not knowing whether you're actually spending your time wisely making a game. So those of you who are watching right now thinking, I'm wasting my time, I know how you feel. I know how you feel. I know you feel like you're wasting your time. I felt that. I had this movie crew, not a crew, a film crew come to my house from Los Angeles. Suddenly, one day, Unity wanted to film a documentary about my little studio and my little game that I was making. It changed everything. Not like you would think, okay? You'd think getting filmed by a film crew from Unity and having that video play at the Game Awards would suddenly make your career explode, and you'd sell millions of copies, and you'd get invited to fancy dinners, and people would know your name, right? I remember thinking, oh man, Mark Hamill's gonna be at the Game Awards, and they're gonna play my little documentary at the Game Awards. Mark Hamill knows who I am, and that's gonna open up all these doors. It really doesn't, it sounds stupid saying now, it really doesn't work that way, okay? So the doors didn't suddenly fly open because this documentary happened, okay? And I can't tell you how the documentary happened. I think somebody just read an article on Gamma Sutra that I wrote, and suddenly Unity wanted to film a documentary about my life. Well, the doors didn't open like I thought they would. The pre-orders did not flood in. I remember I was expecting like millions of dollars of pre-orders. It doesn't work that way. But what did happen is I had a conversation with the director of this documentary, and his name was Ben Proudfoot. Ben Proudfoot and I remember sitting in he had a rental car, and we were driving up to the mountains to film. The mountains were like 20 minutes away from my house, and we figured it'd be a good setting. And he started telling me all of these things about entrepreneurs and how entrepreneurs tick, and how they're always scrambling to look for funding, and they don't complain. Entrepreneurs don't complain. They have a positive attitude, and they always look for advancing. They're always looking for advancement. They want to see progression in their career. And I learned, and I decided that day when I was talking to him, getting plenty of advice from him, that I didn't want to be someone who complained anymore about my career. I didn't want to complain. I didn't want to think lowly of myself. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, an indie game developer, who sent me messages about how terrible their game is and how horrible they feel, and how they're not a real game developer. That won't get you anywhere, thinking that way. It won't get you anywhere. And I was that way, and I lean in that direction sometimes. But Ben told me that's, and maybe he didn't say it in so many words, but he definitely had the attitude. And he was a young guy. We were both young, but he had an attitude of positivity, of strength, of power, of his chin always being up. And I knew that I wanted to be that way. And then he said, you need to be brave. And he encouraged me to do a Kickstarter campaign. And that is when, almost, I quit my job. So all of that video footage, it was beautiful video footage that Ben shot, he and his team shot. I asked Unity, I said, can I use some of that footage, just a couple rolls of B-roll, in my Kickstarter video? And then I had my sister-in-law, thank you, Jackie, I had her film the Kickstarter campaign video where I talked to the camera. We went to my parents' backyard in the woods, and we waited it for just the right time, like 5:30 p.m. or whatever time my sister-in-law recommended. We started filming, and I remember we didn't even have like a teleprompter or anything. So my wife had to hold up my MacBook, my old MacBook, and like scroll from behind the camera so that I could read the script. It definitely felt indie and homemade, and that's because we didn't really have a budget for anything. So I put together my Kickstarter video, and some of you will watch Kickstarter videos and you're thinking, man, these people are so confident. They're so great. They're so amazing. They're so good at what they do. I wish I was that way. Do you know how nervous I was when I released my first Kickstarter campaign or my second Kickstarter campaign? I was incredibly nervous. You can't tell the future. You don't know what's going to happen. And so I remember I spent 2 or maybe even 3 months. I remember I thought I was going to do my Kickstarter campaign in December of 2015, but then I ended up doing it in April. It took a long time to put that campaign together. Lots of research and a lot of reaching out to people like myself who had done Kickstarter campaigns before. So I was very nervous. I didn't know what I was doing, but I remember what Ben had told me, and I remember what several other friends had told me. Anytime I meet someone who inspires me, you know, whether you love the state or not, they do come from California. So anytime I'm meeting somebody from California, they inspire me and put me in a higher emotional state, a positive state. Well, hold on. No, I'm not done yet. This is the cool part. I reached out to every single Facebook friend and asked them to give me their opinion of the Kickstarter campaign. The first reason why I did this was I really wanted their opinion. I wanted to know what they thought. And this was before I hit launch, obviously. What I also wanted is I wanted them to be involved in the campaign so that they would share it on launch. So I remember I was eating lunch in the basement of my job's office building. And with all the lights were off downstairs in the basement. There was nobody there. And I was nervous. I was so nervous. And so I clicked launch for the Kickstarter campaign. There was a lot of preparation and work that went into this, so I was very nervous. And I just started texting my friends at noon during my lunch break at my desk job, a job that I frankly did not like. And I just started texting everyone I could. Can you share? Can you support? Can you cross your fingers? Can you give me your thoughts and prayers? Everything. And I just text. And I was so focused on my phone that I wasn't realizing what was happening on the campaign. And so I looked over at my computer, and the campaign had raised about $7,000 in 30 minutes, I think it was. You know, you can imagine at that moment you are going to have trouble finishing out your day. The campaign had funded itself in a day, and I had some whiskey. I looked at my wife and I said, "This is it. I have arrived." Sometime around then, I put in my 2-week notice. I felt so amazing. It was so cool just putting in my 2-week notice because I had funding, and I also had this feeling of maybe a little bit I told you so to people around me, because I think I did experience a lot of doubt. Now, a lot of encouragement as well, but I think there was a lot of doubt around me about what I was doing with my time in making this game while I was at work. People didn't perceive me this way, but walking around the office those last 2 weeks of work, I felt like a rock star. This is gonna sound crude, but I always imagine just flicking off my workplace when leaving. For no reason, right? It's not like my job was bad. Like, everyone there was amazing. It was a great job, but you see it in movies where people like flick off their workplace. And when I left that building, all I felt was nostalgia. Immediately, nostalgia about my job. And that's kind of a little bit what the moral of this story is that your indie career starts now, wherever you are. My indie career started there. It didn't start the day I quit. It started there. And I learned so much from the people that I worked with. And even if some people I wasn't happy working with, some projects I did not enjoy. I didn't enjoy most of my days because I'm an entrepreneur and I like to do my own thing. That's where my indie career started. And so I have a ton of respect for where I was. And so the day that I quit, it was not what I thought it would be. It was not a moment of euphoria and I told you so. And thank God I'm out of that place. It was a feeling of thank God I had that place to nurture me and to launch me forward into the next career. So that was the day I quit. I've been doing this full time as an entrepreneur for, I can't even remember, 4 years, 3 years. And I have a family, I have a daughter, I have a wife, and we're about to release our next game. That's the quitting story. And hopefully you learned a lot. Again, my name is Thomas Brush. If you like this video, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. And consider supporting me on Patreon. It helps me continue to make games. Bye, guys. Thanks. Talk to you later. See ya. Love you. Bye. You're great. Bye. Love you. See ya.